What's up, y'all? How are you? Hope you're doing well. Hopefully, you just did that breath work practice. And if you're wondering what happened at the end, I purposefully ended it. I've done this before randomly because I think it might be the only way to get people to meditate without knowing that they're meditating. So I lead you through a couple of different breathwork tools, and then you release the mantra, and hopefully after you release the mantra, you are brought to a point of stillness. Then I ask you to get comfortable, and then it goes, there's normally a good amount of space between me speaking. So there is periods of silence. So at the end, I'm hoping that the video just ends and it stays silent and you're waiting for me to say something again, and I never do. And then you end up meditating without being guided. And for most people, that may be the only way that they could actually meditate. So just adopting new strategies, trying to confuse the mind and help you penetrate the walls of your own mind. So that being said, one thing I want to talk about is something I talked about yesterday, which was about how your thoughts are not in your head. If you know anything about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, the quantum realm, we're talking about things on the micro that affect the macro. And really, it is the thoughts that you have are dependent on the energy that you are picking up on around you. Imagine you had an antenna at the top of your head, and it's picking up on the energy that's around you. This is what people call your aura. It is something that's actually visible to at a certain spectrum, at a certain resonance. You could see someone's actual aura. It is just the energy that's being radiated from them. It's just a magnetism thing. So everyone's frequency is different. And sometimes you can align with someone else's frequency. And very simple examples are if you're thinking about someone and they call you right at that moment, or vice versa. If you got a couple people in a room and you all have the same thought at the same time, you all say the same thing at the same time, something that there's no way you both could say that. If you ever called someone and said exactly what they were going to say, or they said exactly what you were going to say to them before you got a chance, with the exact words, maybe it's something you don't even. I had this experience recently. I called someone and I never ever said these words to this person before and was just about to say them, and when I picked up the phone, they said those words to me. Now, people might think, oh, it's just coincidence, but there are no coincidences. If you know anything about magnetism, if you know anything about science, then there's just not coincidences, right? Things are just being attracted and repelled at all moments. This is a magnetic universe, and we are energy, we are electricity, and that's just what's happening. So that's what we got. So it's helpful to navigate within the principles of the universe when you know what they are. And we're not taught what they are at all. And I think that's really unhelpful. We're out here with no manual, no playbook. We don't even know the game. And, that's really rough. And most people are not doing too well with it. And one point in my own evolution that I'm just beginning to kind of understand is I've just gone through something called an ego death, which you go through, I don't know how many of them, but each time is a little more intense. The ego wants to hold on so bad, and it does a really good job of. The ego is a trickster, so the ego will convince you that it is not your ego speaking because it knows that you won't willingly listen to your ego. So it'll try and convince you that it's you speaking and not your ego. And once you really kind of understand what the ego is about and its purpose, and don't vilify it. I wouldn't say necessarily, start a battle. Like, battles are never won. Wars are never won. Whatever you are putting out is what's coming back to you. So you may beat an ideology out of somebody, but you're just bringing it onto yourself. So things you can never really kill something off, not in that way, not with violence. And it's a form of violence to try and go up against your ego and try and kill it. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to win that game. You can act defiantly for sure, but to try and make it your every moment's wish to try and just kill the ego so you don't hear his voice anymore. Good luck with that. It's going to be pretty difficult if it's possible. I believe it is possible because there's moments where you can live in awareness and the ego is not present there. So I think those are the moments that are really amazing, life changing, and perspective altering for sure. But back to the quantum realm. If you understand thought, you understand that thoughts are not being generated. You're not a being that generates thoughts. You catch thoughts. Like, they're in the air, and you catch that energy, and then your brain interprets the energy that you caught into language. And they're only as relevant, your thought is only as relevant as you make it. So you can have all these thoughts, right? The average person has 70,000 to 100,000 thoughts per day. 80% of them are allegedly negative. That's a very unhelpful place to live, inside a 80% negative mind. But we're naturally negative creatures. Our mind is naturally negative, right? Let's not say we're naturally negative creatures, because if you look at a child, for the most part, children are joyful. And it's not until their mind develops and their mind starts speaking to them, then they start taking on the minds of those around them, the people that are developing them, whether it be their mother, their father, their grandparents, their siblings. And that's what determines the quality of their mind. That's what really determines their beliefs for the rest of their life. So you may be operating out here, run by your ego, run by your thoughts, identifying with your thoughts, and operating as someone that you never chose to be. And I think at a certain level, we don't have the ability to choose our beliefs because they are so deeply ingrained when we are so young. But over time, things can compound where you change your direction in one way or another. And over time, you end up living a more intentional lifestyle. However, once again, thoughts, they have no particular relevance. If you have a negative thought, you don't have to act on it. You don't have to listen to it. If you have a positive thought, you don't have to act on it. You don't have to listen to it, but you can. So at any point in time, you can decide, I'm not going to act on any of my negative thoughts again, ever again. Only my positive thoughts I will give energy towards. And thoughts turn to things. So everything that you put your energy towards will grow. Everything you take your energy away from will wither and die. And if you want to starve your ego, if you want to starve your negative thoughts, then that's something within your realm of possibility. It is a discipline game, and it really helps to dump everything out of your mind, put it all down on paper, speak it all, into a recording of some kind. um just speak it out loud to yourself, dump it all and reset, restart, and do that as often as possible, because you want to create space for new thoughts. Most people are having 70 to 100,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative, and overwhelmingly almost 100% of those thoughts are recycled from the day before. You do not want this. You do not want to have the same thoughts every single day. That is pretty close to the definition of hell. So I say that to say my own ego death, I found my ego got really loud. And I realized that over the course of my life, I've listened to my ego a lot. My ego has become, my ego has been a self saboteur, and it's also been constantly attached to the idea of self preservation. And it was always very much so like, you don't need this person, you don't need anything, you're fine on your own. And there's serious power in that. I know that I don't need anyone or anything material, and there's serious power in that. But there's also, it gets to a point where if your ego is saying things that are with a negative tone, and you know whether it's the voice is negative or positive, whether it's trying to guide you towards something negative or positive, and the real you has the ability to be selfless, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, and to lead. The ego has no ability to lead. The ego can't even lead itself. The ego will lead itself into absolute demise, treachery, sickness, and the ego is just starving for attention and for control, and for identity with form. It will hold on to pretty much anything that you allow it to. So again, it comes back to law of detachment. You have to be, you don't have to be. You can be detached from everything. And it helps for you to flow. It helps for you to go with the energy, to go with the river rather than try and swim upstream. And the ego will try and get you to swim upstream all the time. So that doesn't mean that you always take path of least resistance, because the human body is wired to avoid pain and go towards pleasure. And what we think of as pleasure is not always pleasurable. And what we think of as pain is not always painful. A lot of the things that we think of as painful actually lead to our ultimate pleasure. So, and I could say that in terms of doing things in your everyday life that you don't necessarily want to do. Doing things like taking a cold shower, like getting in the ocean, like exercise, like eating healthy, like meditating. A lot of these things, your mind will try and get you not to do them. And it's your ego talking. And you choose which thoughts you water. You choose which wolf you feed and who you want to be. And you do that moment by moment. So I'll stop there, keep it brief. And if you would like to work together doing health and wellness coaching, if you would like to get your health and wellness to the next level, please comment You can email me at Aparicio Health and Wellness. You can text me if you know me personally, or DM me on any of the many social profiles. So appreciate you for tuning in, and talk soon. Peace.